guys, so we're trying something different tonight. We're going with a pre-show, and I've got my microphones on, and so does Richard, who I'll bring into the shot momentarily. But I would like to know if you guys can see and hear me, first of all. I can see the countdown timer. Okay, so that's all good. It's up in that corner. So Richard, I've just brought you into the shot, and we're all just testing stuff to say hello, Richard. Hey, so guys, can you hear and see us both? We're just testing this out, and we'll see if this works. So apparently, oh, okay, yeah, all right. So the timer is up in the corner, which is good. That's great. I just don't know if anybody can hear or see us. I just seem to. So if you can hear or see us, please give us the thumbs up, or more importantly, post below, guys. Can you hear me right now? Technology, gotta love it, eh? All right, I'm gonna refresh my page on Facebook and see if, so I can see that we're tracking live, and we've got 5 minutes to go before official start time, Richard. So thank you for being patient. And I'm using a timer for the first time, which you can't see, but you will see on the replay, Richard. It's up in the top corner. It's counting down to when we start live. So you can still hear me just fine, right? Okay, good. I'm just going to adjust my volume because I'm hearing you loud and clear. And we'll see if, see, everybody knows to clock in at 6, so they're very diligent, and they may be waiting till then. So I'll just see if anyone's joining us early to say hello. Okay. Hey guys, if you're out there, let us know. Richard, water, really? Oh, okay. True. You are a trooper, but I'm sure you taste regularly at this hour of the morning. Isn't that when your palate's supposed to be the best? Yeah. I think so. Just like writing or anything else that takes focus, concentration. Yeah. So let me just keep refreshing and just see what. That's right. I'm reading a book right now, a new book, Cork Darks, and she says, she found her optimal point of about 2 hours when she went in hungry, and so it's probably primal from back in the cave days. Like when you're hungry, you're most alert sensorially, I'm sure. Yeah. Okay, good. Okay. I know you're there, guys. I see that there's 36 views and everybody's shy. So please post and let us know if you can hear both of us. I've got a sound tunnel here with my new earphones, but that's okay. But again, just to give people a chance, because they're used to us starting at 6, not this early. So let us know if you can hear us. Let me see if I can comment. Can you hear us? Okay, we'll see if that gets it going, but we will start at 6 o'clock regardless, because everybody piles in at that time. All right. Have you got some wines in front of you, Richard, even though it is early morning? Oh, good. Awesome. That's great. So do I. I can get to them I feel like I'm on a leash here with my earbuds, but that's okay. All right. Okay, still seeing this works. My test. People are commenting on that, but we'll just see if they comment on this. So, there we go. We've got more people coming in the door. Oh, there's Anne from Halifax. Nat, I can hear you, but not Richard. Okay, so maybe I need to undo my earphones. That may be the thing. Thanks for letting me know, Anne. I'm going to take these out, my earbuds. Oh. Oh my goodness. Those are in. Yeah. Can you still hear me, Richard?
Yes, I can still hear you.
Okay, I'm going to turn up my volume. Now, folks, can you still hear us? Can you hear both me and Richard? I'm going to make sure my audio is on the right thing. Okay, so I would love to know if you can still hear us, guys. Both me and Richard. Let's see, I'll keep refreshing. Okay, so Richard, try another little test there. Your favorite wine would be?
I think every winemaker who makes Chardonnay loves Chardonnay.
Okay.
It's a real winemaker's wine, yeah.
Interesting. Because we know Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, but still, that's okay. I'm just going to keep refreshing. Can you hear Richard and his recent comment, guys? Hoping that the echo is diminishing here. So it's 6 p.m. We're going to go live soon. We're going to start the show, I should say. We're already live. But can people hear? Oh, Anne says she can hear us both now. So I was somehow making you whatever, inaudible, Richard. It's not you, it's me. Anyway. Well, yes, so to speak. Okay, guys, so we are still testing lots of technology, but we are going to get going. I'm going to leave my earbuds out. Richard has agreed to leave his earbuds in. But tonight on the Sunday Sipper Club, we are talking with Richard Painter from New Zealand. He is actually logging in from New Zealand. I am amazed about the reception that you have there, the clarity, Richard, and now finally the audio. But we're going to talk about the different wines you make, Left Field Winery, these amazing labels. We've got the New Zealand Wine Fair coming to Canada, so we've got lots to talk about. So first of all, welcome, Richard, and we're so glad you could join us tonight.
Oh, thanks for having me. It's a real pleasure.
Excellent. So I know that you started off with a science degree, but why don't you fill in the gaps? How did you come to winemaking? Was winemaking in your family, or how did you get here?
Winemaking wasn't necessarily in my family, but I did grow up in a household where wine was always on the table, and I know my parents used to visit vineyards and wineries, and I'd get dragged along in tow as a child. So I guess it was always around, and even as a teenager got to enjoy the odd glass of wine at dinner.
Okay.
But at university I studied geography as a Bachelor of Science, and then after studying geography I was actually in hospitality managing a bar, and the owner and I used to go to a lot of wine tastings, and it was then when I sort of found I had a real affinity for wine and realised that the whole process of making wine actually tied in quite well to geography. You know, it was all about soils and climate and that sort of thing. Yeah. So from there, it was a natural progression, really. I studied winemaking as a postgraduate diploma and went from there.
Wow. Well, I love that you come at it from geography, because that's the big thing in wine, of course. It's all about terroir, which is the term we hear all the time thrown around.
Yeah.
A fancy pants term for climate and soil and local weather and a variety of factors, even including the winemaker's decisions. Yeah, how would you, well, I don't want to be too technical right off the bat, but rather than talk about terroir, what impact does geography play for you in the wines that you make now? Because I know you're in the Hawke's Bay of New Zealand, and this little tiny region of Gimblett Gravels, if I'm saying it correctly. What makes this patch of earth really special, Richard?
Well, Te Awa Winery is located right on the Gimblett Gravels. It's actually unique in that it sits on the edge of Gimblett Gravels. So we straddle two different subregions. One is the Gimblett Gravels, which is just a very gravelly soil, and the other is the Bridge Triangle, which is still gravelly but has silt over the top. So that's what makes Te Awa really unique. But I think the Gimlet Gravels in particular is very unique. It's a finite area of 800 hectares, and it's an old riverbed. And only as recently as 150 years ago, that river moved about 2 kilometres to the north after a big flood event. So it left a very pure, fresh, young soil that is all stones with a little bit of sand and silt mixed in. So it's very infertile soil, which is not great for farming. The story has it in New Zealand you could only grow 1 sheep per hectare on this land, which in farming terms is not very much.
No.
As you know, New Zealand's a land of sheep, so that's how we measure things. So people thought it was wasteland, and then in the 80s, a group of local wine growers saw the potential of this land for growing fine wine grapes, in particular red grapes such as Merlot, Cabernet Sauvignon, and Syrah. And they started planting it, and that infertile soil combined with a really warm local microclimate. The area is actually slightly warmer than the rest of Hawke's Bay as well. So that combination of warmth and very infertile soil means it grows very lovely red wines, particularly those Bordeaux varietals and Syrah.
Wow, that's quite an array. Anne says she's anxious to hear about food pairings with New Zealand wines. So why don't we get to that? Now, you mentioned you love Chardonnay. What would you pair with? I've got a few of your Chardonnays here tonight. I've got the, let me just hold it up. I've got the Left Field Chardonnay. So what would be maybe your favorite food pairing with that one, Richard?
The Left Field Chardonnay, it's a lighter style of Chardonnay, so it's what I call a lightly oaked Chardonnay. It's fermented in a mix of stainless steel and oak barrels, so it's not a big, heavy wine, is what I'm getting at. So I think that style of wine is lovely with seafood. In New Zealand, we have one of our most common white fish is called snapper. I'm not sure if you have snapper there. And it's a lovely sort of firm-fleshed white fish, and they're sort of small enough that you can pan fry a whole one. And I just love nothing more than a big whole pan-fried snapper with just a little bit of lemon for flavouring, and something like that just goes really well with that Left Field Chardonnay.
Oh, you're making my mouth water, which is really excellent. That's great. And how would you describe this Chardonnay in particular, this Left Field Chardonnay?
So as I said, the Left Field Chardonnay, it's a lighter style of Chardonnay. Mm-hmm. You get a little hint of that French oak flavour in it, but it has lovely citrus, particularly lemon flavours. And in Hawke's Bay, you also get some lovely stone fruit flavours, so slight peach and nectarine flavours come through. And then, although Hawke's Bay is a warm part of New Zealand, the wines retain a lovely acidity, so the wine has a lovely fresh acidity, and that's what helps it cut through quite rich flavours such as seafood or bread.
And so you say it's a warm area, yet it has freshness. Is that because the nights are cool in the Hawke's Bay?
Yes, I think New Zealand as a whole is a cool climate wine growing country. So even though we're in probably the warmest wine growing area of New Zealand, it's still coolish. And we're not so far from the coast. So you do get poolish air coming in from the sea that just keeps the climate temperate. It never gets too hot. And you're right, the nights get quite cool, particularly later in autumn as the grapes get ready to be harvested.
Yeah, and your autumn is now, right? You're southern hemisphere, so you're into harvest right now, correct?
Finished harvest, actually, Natalie. It's been the earliest finish we've had that I can remember. It's been amazing. So
that's great.
I've actually had a couple of weekends off, which is good.
Wow. They must get you on a plane to a trade show somewhere.
I know.
A winemaker with a few weekends off, unheard of. Lucy Mercier has joined us, and she loves Sauvignon Blanc from New Zealand, and she is wondering, tonight Lucy is having lobster, so what would be your suggested pairing for that, Richard?
For Sauvignon Blanc, I just love shellfish. We in New Zealand, we farm a lot of green lip mussels, particularly around the Marlborough region, which is sort of one of the homes of New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. So A big bowl of fresh mussels, maybe just with a lemon broth, something like that would go really nicely with Sauvignon Blanc. And those lovely fresh herbaceous flavours and firm acidity of New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc will really accentuate some of those lovely shellfish flavours. If you can't get mussels, then, a bowl of clams or even scallops, although scallops I tend to go more for a Chardonnay. But yeah, good fresh shellfish, you can't beat it.
Oh, that sounds fantastic. And I should just say, we are live here on the Sunday Sipper Club, and we go live every Sunday at 6 p.m. Toronto, New York time. Of course, for Richard in New Zealand, it is what time in the morning for you, Richard?
A little after 10 on a Monday morning. So.
You are a trooper. I am wondering, folks, if there is less echo, if the audio is better this week. Maybe just post in the comments below. Yes, no, the audio is better, it's fine. I can't hear you, I'm lip reading. But also, I would love to know where you're logging in from. Just join us, tell us where you're from, and because I can see lots of you are here tonight. You're all just sitting in the background listening to the conversation, which is just fine, but please feel free to tell us where you're logging in from. And our question of the day is, have you enjoyed a New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc recently? Yes, no, that's all you need to post. You can go farther, but you don't need to. What would be your favorite food pairing? Because we want to get lots of suggestions here. So, Jason Gavreau is joining in late from Calgary. Jason, you're not late, that's okay. Well, you're here now, that's all that counts. So Jason, what is your favorite pairing with Sauvignon Blanc? We have Richard Painter here, who is actually live from New Zealand. I love this, what the technology can do for us. And he's here to talk about his wines left field. Now, Richard, of course, I'm really intrigued by all of the labels from your wine. So I try not, as a person who writes about wine, to be drawn in by the labels, but these are irresistible. So what's going on with all of these really iconic, almost crazy dream illustrations on your labels? Let's talk about the one on this Chardonnay. Where is this coming from? Who did this, and what's the backstory?
Yeah, they're fantastic, aren't they?
They are.
To just delve into the backstory a little bit, how I just explained on the Te Awa vineyard, we have two very different soil types. So the genesis of left field was really 10 or 12 years ago. The winemaker at the time took grapes from the more silty Bridge-Par Triangle side of the vineyard and made a different range of wines called left field wines. Because the thing with gimlet gravels is it's basically an appellation and a trademark. So for a wine to be labelled gimlet gravels, it has to be 95% from the gimlet gravels area. So we had half of our vineyard, which wasn't gimlet gravels, and we needed to release wines from that half of the vineyard. And at the time, they always called it the left field of the vineyard. So it was really a physical reference to a part of the vineyard. And then about 3 or 4 years ago, we took left field and we decided it had such a strong brand name. And we decided to play on that second meaning of something being from the left field as something being a little left of centre, a little bit quirky, so to speak. Yeah. So we went to a local designer, Aaron Pollock, and we asked him to design a label and some illustrations and his design brief was basically, can you come up with something from the left field? And then he came up with these amazing illustrations. So they're actually taken out of an old biology textbook, like 100-year-old biology textbook.
I love that.
I'll just grab a bottle so I can...
Yeah, absolutely. Which one have you got there?
So if you look at them, they really look like, old hand drawings out of an old biology textbook. And he's taken several different creatures and blended them together to come up with mythical creations. So on the Chardonnay, it's called the lizard fish.
Okay.
And then what's really interesting, I don't know if you can see it, I'll try and hold up, but there's a little picture of a windmill drawn into all of the pictures.
Yes.
Every wine has a different label. And the windmill was really the icon of Te Awa. We've got this beautiful old windmill at our front gate, which used to be used to draw water up from the aquifer below us when the property was a farm. So each of the labels does have elements of that windmill drawn into it. So,
yeah, I noticed I've got the Pinot Gris.
And they're very original. They're very quirky.
They are. And I've even got the Pinot Gris, and you can see the little windmills coming out of this crustacean on the side of it. Can't do things backwards here on the camera. But yeah, I can see the elements of this. Let me just grab a few others here. I was intrigued. Look, there's your rosé. There's the windmill again, down the elements of it. So does the windmill at all help with, in some wineries, it's taking the warm air and flushing it down through the vines to keep the vines warm in colder periods? Does that?
Yes, we've got plenty of those scattered around our vineyard, so therefore frostbiting. Obviously, being a cool climate viticulture area, we do get late spring frosts. So I quite like the fact the windmill is the symbol of Te Awa, because we've got this beautiful old windmill at our gate, which used to be used for drawing water up to be used for the farm, and now we have all these modern windmills, or wind machines we call them, scattered around the vineyard. So it's sort of a modern incarnation of the old windmill, which is quite cool.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so I'm curious, because Chardonnay has, it's been through the thing, ABC, anything but Chardonnay, but you're calling it a winemaker's wine. So tell me what your fascination is, perhaps love is, of Chardonnay. So a lot of people like to bash Chardonnay, but why do you like it?
I think a lot of winemakers will like Chardonnay because it's a wine you can really have a bit of stylistic imprint on it. Sure. There's so many different styles of Chardonnay, from very sort of lean, minerally, almost Chablis-like Chardonnays through to very fat, rich, oaky Chardonnays. So there's a real sort of breadth of flavours you can have in Chardonnay, so you can really bring a bit of your own influence to it. Whereas a lot of other wines, aromatic white wines in particular, and they're very sort of clean and very transparent of where the wine's grown and things like that. So yeah, I think winemakers like Chardonnay because they can put a bit of their own personality into the wine and have a bit of fun.
Right. And what do you try to achieve with Chardonnay? Is there a signature? Is there a way you would describe your Chardonnay, especially from left field?
I think the idea, we make several Chardonnays here at Te Awa, so the left field one is a lighter style. The first ever left field wine was actually an unoaked Chardonnay, produced in 2006. So over the years we've introduced more oak barrels, purely because I think it makes better wine, oak Chardonnays. But we've kept it in that lighter, easy to drink style. Like I said, lovely citrus and stone fruit flavours. But we also try and give the wine a little bit of generosity through malolactic fermentation. And then we make an estate Chardonnay, the Te Awa single estate Chardonnay, and that's a step up in terms of it's a bit richer, fuller bodied, and it also has a bit more flinty complexity from natural ferment. So
that would be
the two quite distinct wines.
Yeah, absolutely. Te Awa, that's the one. Yes, so Te Awa is the winery. Would you call Left Field like a sub-label, or is it its own winery? How do you separate the two, or do you?
Yeah, Left Field, we call our wines the Te Awa collection. So Left Field sits in the Te Awa collection. Okay. The big difference with Left Field is we take grapes from around the country, so from different vineyard sites around the country, and also different vineyard sites around Hawke's Bay to make those wines. And then our Te Awa single estate wines are all made from grapes grown on the Te Awa estate. So the two quite separate labels in that sense, but they're all made here at the Te Awa Winery in Hawke's Bay.
Okay, cool. Jason says, I agree with Richard about the whitefish and shellfish pairing with Sauvignon Blanc, but the high acidity in Sauvignon Blanc also makes it a great pairing with zesty, citrusy summer salads, especially those with vinaigrette dressings. Yeah. Any comments there, Richard?
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And actually, I'll tell you, one thing I'd add to that salad is some nice goat's cheese, because I tell you what, Sauvignon Blanc and goat's cheese were made to go together.
They were, and if we go back to Old World, it's Chèvre, which is goat's cheese, and Sancerre from the Loire Valley, which is Sauvignon Blanc. So it actually also works very nicely. I guess it's that grassiness or the fresh meadowy note in both the cheese and the wine. What do you think brings them together?
Yeah, I'm not so sure. I think maybe, goat's cheese does have a nice little tartness. And obviously, Sauvignon Blanc has that crisp acidity, but also that slight creaminess of the cheese. It's nice to have something fresh and acidic just to cut through that. But yeah, I hadn't thought about that grassiness, but I think that's a really good description.
We'll go with that.
Well done.
Okay, so I'm curious. I'm going to go back to a picture I have of you, Richard, and I'm going to show it on the screen now. Your dog, I've been calling him Rover in the pre-show, but I'm sure his name is not Rover. What's his name, and what's his connection with the vineyard?
My dog's name is Sam. So he is an interesting mix of Labrador and New Zealand sheepdog.
Oh.
So he's a big black hairy dog is his breed, as I call it. So Sam comes to work with me each day. And he much prefers running around the vineyard than sitting in the lab or wandering around the winery. So he looks forward to his end of day walk around the vineyard very much.
He's not an analytical dog. He's more of a out there in the field dog.
He is.
That's great. And how long has he been around the vineyard?
So he must be about 6 now. So I've been working at Te Awa since 2013. So he's been running around here for about the last 40 years.
Oh, that's so sweet. Okay. All right. So I have got a pile of your wines. I've gotten lost in the conversation as I usually do. So let's make sure we get through some of these wines. We talked about the Chardonnay. We talked about the Sauvignon Blanc. Let me bring up some others. I have the Rosé, which is super fresh. I opened and tasted these wines just before our conversation, but maybe tell us a little bit about the Rosé, the grape base, and kind of the style you were going for, that sort of thing.
Yeah, so the Rosé it's quite uniquely left field, I think, and it's probably the most left field of all the wines we make. So it's a blend of several different grape varieties. So we use some Pinotage, which is grown here on the Te Awa vineyard.
That's usually South Africa.
It is, yeah. It's usually South Africa, and it's pretty rare in New Zealand now, Pinotage, but I think it makes a lovely rosé wine. It's half Pinot Noir and half Cinsault, and both those grapes individually make lovely rosés. So Pinotage for me is the perfect rosé grape. But we actually also use some Arnaise. So Arnaise is an Italian white variety, and it's very fresh and floral. We also grow some of that here in Hawke's Bay. So I actually take the two grapes and blend them together. So it's almost a bit of a blush style rosé. So I always use that as the base for my rosé, and then depending on what volume I need, I quite often top it up with some Merlot that I make into rosé, and also some Pinot Gris. So I don't get hung up on what grapes I use to make the rosé. I just use different wines to blend together to try and make the perfect rosé.
Oh, wow.
So I try and make it a light, just off dry style. So it's got about 5 to 6 grams per litre sugar. So just a hint of sweetness to balance out any natural acidity. And I try and go for a lovely pale salmon colour. At the lighter end of the spectrum, I hope.
I think you've done your job, Richard. This doesn't come off with any sort of sweetness, only a sort of fresh, tiny strawberry fields forever kind of summery note.
Right.
Yeah, there's no residual sugar heaviness, nothing. It's dry and crisp. It's lovely. It's so light. So chilled as an aperitif or a companion to, I don't know, planked salmon or even lighter fare, maybe?
Yeah, I think we even say pair it with salmon on the label. But yeah, rosé for me is the perfect lunchtime wine as well, which is part of the reason we keep it nice and light and fresh and crisp. Should only have 12 or 12.5% alcohol. But for me, lunchtime or as an aperitif, it's just perfect.
I love that you talk about lunchtime wines. Excellent. This is 12.5%, so that's lovely. And it is just so fresh, just even in the glass. So, and then, of course, with rosé, do you suggest generally, and particularly with your rosé, you enjoy them young, the vintage they're made, or maybe 2 years after max?
Yes, I think so. For me, rosé is not a wine you cellar. You drink it young while it's lovely and fresh. But certainly after 2 years, they still taste very good. I recommend drinking them young.
Okay, good. All right, let's motor through here. We've had the Chardonnay. I'm just looking at and we've done the Tiawa. Can you help me pronounce that again? Tiawa?
Tiawa.
Tiawa. Is it?
So Tiawa, it's Māori, the indigenous people of New Zealand, and Tiawa means the river.
The river, okay, yes, because I've seen the TE as a sort of prefix on some other wine labels and terms out of New Zealand, so it's good to know. And how do you say that?
T basically means the.
The. That makes sense. Okay. That totally makes sense. Let me just see if I have any other whites here. I have. That's the Sauvignon Blanc. I had the Pinot Gris, which is just really. Maybe we should clarify what we can get here in Ontario. Of course, we have people clocking in and watching us from around the world. So in New Zealand, lucky people, you can probably get most of these. But here in Ontario, or generally across Canada, I believe it's mostly, is it the Sauvignon Blanc and Pinot Noir or something like that? Maybe you can remind us of what's here right now or coming up soon.
The Sauvignon Blanc is the only one that's been released officially, and then we're hoping to get the rest of the range in shortly.
Sure, absolutely. That's that one. That flying fish with an onion at the base. That's very interesting. Okay, but I was trying the Pinot Gris, and I thought that was really superbly fresh, and often I find Pinot Gris can be kind of what I call beige wines, really boring, like choosing white for your walls in your house. But why is this one so fresh and aromatic? What have you done here?
Crikey. So we grow our Pinot Gris here in Hawke's Bay, and most New Zealand Pinot Gris tend to be grown in some of the cooler parts of New Zealand, so your Marlborough, Centro Otago, Martinborough, places where they typically grow Pinot Noir. So what we do is we grow it in Hawke's Bay because I love the warmth gives extra rich fruit flavour, and what it means is you get a lot of flavour packed into the grapes, and you don't need to leave as much residual sugar in the wine to give it flavour. I certainly agree with you that often Pinot Gris can be a little bit beige. But what we do is we grow the Pinot Gris in a cooler inland valley of Hawke's Bay. So whilst it's warmer, it is cooler than where we are here on the Gimlet Gravels. So that helps retain natural acidity and freshness to the wine. But other than that, it's not too many tricks. It's mostly just fermented in stainless steel tanks using nice aromatic yeast to bring forward some of those flavours. It's an interesting thing about Pinot Gris is that when it's fermenting, it's the most flavourful and aromatic wine you can ever taste, and then when it finishes ferment, it seems to just drop off. It's about trying to lock in those flavours somehow.
Yeah. Like a child who had lots of ballet training and then just flops on the recital, but yours doesn't, so that's okay.
That's good. Good to hear.
All right. Yes, absolutely. And Jason, who is in Calgary, is wanting to know, you may not know this, and we could post this comment afterwards, Richard, but do you have any left field wines available in Alberta that you know of?
Not currently, I understand. Yeah, Ontario is the first province. Is that what we call them? Provinces,
yeah, provinces, yes.
To get left field wines, but certainly it's our goal to try and get widespread distribution soon. Maybe if you put in lots of requests, we can make that happen a bit quicker.
So Jason, email the liquor store 20 times. Okay, let me see what else I've got here, because I think I've gone through all the whites. I'm just checking. I've got a lot of bottles around me here. So it's Chardonnay, yes. That's such a nice rosé, I must say. So let's dive into the reds. Let's start with the Syrah, and here is the windmill again atop a flying boat or something. Rip Van
The
Winkle.
flying boat ship.
Oh yeah, that's cool. So talk about Syrah, because I'm a big fan of cool climate Syrah. You know, from New Zealand especially, that nice peppery. But what's happening with Syrah in a cool climate such as yours?
Yeah, so Syrah is becoming a very exciting variety for us here in Hawke's Bay, and the Gimlet Gravels in particular. And historically, there's been a real focus on Merlot and Cabernet style blends, but latently Syrah is becoming the real darling of Hawke's Bay red wines. So it's a very distinctive style, like you say, quite peppery and spicy, but you also get those lovely black fruits, dark berries, and they retain a lovely fresh acidity as well, which makes them stay fresh, but they also age really well. So very distinctive and very different to, say, an Australian Shiraz, which is quite a big, rich, almost jammy wine. New Zealand Syrah is almost closer to Pinot Noir in that it's quite fresh and aromatic, little bit of spice. So Syrah is very exciting, and I think for Hawke's Bay, the future of red wine probably lies more in the Syrah camp than the traditional Bordeaux blends.
That's really interesting, because I get that, the pepper and the darkness, but still, it's bright at the core. It's not heavy. It's really an exciting wine with a lot of potential. I love Syrah in the Rhone Valley. Of course, perhaps that could be considered its home or starting place, but as an example in New Zealand, I think this is fantastic. It's got the best of both, with the balance of richness and yet that lifted vibrancy at the core. So yeah, that's fantastic. Okay. Jason's still wondering.
Yeah, I think those wines of the Rhone Valley are very much, the New Zealand Syrah model is very much that Northern Rhone style, where they are more elegant and elegant and aromatic and fresh, rather than the, say, Southern Rhone, which seem to be a bit riper and fuller bodied.
That's true. And I think it's my assumption, correct me, when you call something Syrah from New Zealand, or even when they do so in California, say, they're signaling that this is a more European style, the Northern Valley of the Rhone perhaps in style, that sort of balance, that black pepper, but not the fruit bomb, and that's the perhaps more stylistically what we can expect, you know, a Syrah versus a Shiraz, perhaps. Pause. Okay. Let me see. What else do we have here? Because I've got more. I love this Pinot Noir. So, of course, New Zealand is trending, #trending on Pinot Noir these days. What are you doing with your Pinot Noir from left field?
So our Pinot Noir is from the Marlborough region, so top of the South Island. So we do tend to think Hawke's Bay is a bit warm for Pinot, so we head south. Historically, we have made it from the Nelson region, which is on the northwestern part of the South Island, but we've recently moved it to Marlborough, which is probably New Zealand's most famous wine region, on the back of the Sauvignon Blanc that comes from there. So typically Marlborough Pinot Noirs have lovely red fruit flavours, so red cherry, strawberry, and they also have lovely spice. Like, I always think of a bit of sort of raspberries and cherries with a bit of cinnamon on top. You know, that's Marlborough Pinot Noir. So the idea with our left field Pinot Noir is it's a lighter style, very easy to drink. And we make it in a fairly affordable style. So it's made in old oak barrels, helps keep the costs down. And it's really a sort of drink young to medium aged type wine. So it's a very easy drinking Pinot Noir.
Absolutely.
One to enjoy every night.
Oh yeah. Selfishly, I hope this one comes next after the Sauvignon Blanc. I'm a huge fan of New Zealand Pinot because I just think the balance is there, and yet we're not paying Burgundy prices. So it's just That's interesting. What do we got going on here? We got a what is that? Not a stork. What is that? What are these pink things called? These birds, pink flamingos, and
Pink flamingo.
he's a flamingo on a windmill. So again, it looks like someone had a bad dream and put it on a label, but in an artistic way. It's interesting. That's really great. Oh, and he's got, you know what I like? Figure 2. It's like it's out of a biology textbook. That is so cool. All right, so, and we have another one here. We have got your Merlot, and this is somehow a deer hatching out of an egg. Do you know?
Yeah, the hatchling deer. That's one of my favourite labels, actually. I think nothing like a deer head to, when you're drinking a nice rich red wine, you think of sitting next to the fire in a hunting lodge or something like that.
Sure, we think of that, but not coming out of an egg. So why is it coming out of the egg?
Yeah, it's pretty left field.
Yeah, okay, all right. So that could be the default explanation. It's left field. Okay. So describe this one then, Merlot.
Yeah, so Merlot, it's the most widely planted red grape here in Hawke's Bay. So
Okay.
this wine is grown on the Tiawa estate.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the 2015, I think you have there, isn't it?
I do.
A lovely,
Yes.
that wine actually has a good lashing of Cabernet Franc and a little bit of Cabernet Sauvignon in it as well. So it's about 88% Merlot. So it's actually a bit more of a Merlot blend. So for me, it's a really classical Bordeaux style blend. It's got, it's quite young, but the left field wines are all made that they can be drunk young, aged in French oak barrels. So you get those lovely sort of plum, Black Doris plum notes that you get with good Merlot, and a little dose of Cabernet Franc adds some lovely perfume and floral notes to the aroma. So I think that's a very sort of elegant expression of a Merlot blend.
What kind of plum did you say? Doris or something? I'm just trying to hear what you said. Doris plum? Black plum?
Black Doris plum.
Doris.
Yeah, it's a type of plum we get. It's one that's quite often used in baking and cooking and things like that. I'm not sure if you have it, but it's quite a dark plum with red flesh.
Like Doris, as in the woman's name, Doris?
Yes. Doris. Yeah.
I'm putting that in a tasting note. Black Doris plum. This sounds like Doris on a bad day, but brooding or whatever, dark and fleshy, and I love the plummy flavors that come through on that. So let me just grab these two over here because we have, I'm still probably not going to say it correctly, but Tiawa, the Syrah, and I have the Merlot Cabernet. And it's nice to taste the range. Do you know, again, I'm putting you on the spot. It's okay if you don't know. We can always post in the comments below. Are any of the Tiawa labels available in Canada?
No, so the Tiawa single estate wines aren't available there yet either. Again, hopefully we'll get them there soon.
Yeah, sure. Do you have any of the regular, not the single estate yet, of Tiawa in Canada anywhere?
No, so Tiawa, we have two ranges, the single estate and the left field.
Okay.
Yeah, so it's my understanding only the left field Sauvignon Blanc was the first one we've got listed there.
So
with a
that's
view to rolling some more out soon.
That's your Trojan horse. Then all the
Yeah, it
other
is.
wines come out of the the horse. So Anne is saying she's enjoying the artwork on the bottles. I know Anne is a artist by heart, and she's loving these labels, as am I. So
There's
Richard,
actually a great YouTube video of the left field creatures that we've made. So if you put left field wines into YouTube, you'd find it. But maybe we could send you the link, Natalie, and you could post it.
I do. I want to put that in the blog post because I love the backstory on labels that are intriguing and fascinating. So I'm going to follow up and make sure we get that because I would love to put that in the blog post because I will post all of the wines that we're tasting tonight on the blog post so that you can find them in your local liquor store, the tasting notes, the scores, the stock availability, but also that video sounds really interesting. So Richard, is there anything that we haven't covered that you would like to mention about left field? Because we've just really it's carried on so quickly. These conversations go so fast. We're already 20 to the hour. So, what is there anything you'd like to add that we haven't covered?
No, I think we've covered them quite well, but I do urge people, if they can, try and find the bottles or even look online, because they don't just have quirky labels. Each creation actually has its own backstory on the label, which is celebrating that left field style, design style. And so some of those backstories are quite quirky. If you think the pictures are quirky, wait till you read the backstory. And also we've used a bit of imaginative language in the tasting notes and things like that. So they are quite an whimsical sort of imaginative style of design, goes into the whole brand. The pictures, the tasting notes, the descriptors.
I love that.
The wines themselves are, they're just very consumer friendly wines, very easy to drink, good quality. And we're also doing a few interesting things. I don't think you ever sampled there, Natalie, but one of the wines we're really championing is Albarino.
I did try this. It's not here tonight, but I did try a sample about 2 weeks ago. It was fantastic.
Oh, great. Oh, that's good to hear. We're making an Albarino from Gisborne, and that's something we're really excited about. We think it's got great potential. We've been making them for about 3 years now, and we export most of it to the UK and Europe, but maybe one day we can get some over to Canada. It's very lovely, fresh, aromatic wine. A lot of those qualities that make New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc just so appealing to people, that freshness and purity and aromatic intensity. We're achieving the same results with Albarino, so that's something really exciting we're doing, and hopefully something we can get across to Canada also sometime soon.
That would be good, sooner than later, Richard. But Albarino, of course, we associate with northern Portugal, fresh, clean, crisp, white grape, in that family with Gruner, Veltliner, and some others, of course, Sauvignon Blanc, but no, these are fantastic. And, I must say, even though there's a strong branding component going on here and a fascinating backstory with the labels, the wines really stand alone. Even if they had horrendous labels, they really taste fantastic. And I do encourage people to try them. Of course, we can only get the Sauvignon Blanc so far here in Canada, but who knows what the availability is in your region, wherever you're tuning in from. So look out for them. We will put all of the tasting notes in the blog post that I'll put as a link under this. So, Richard, thank you so much for joining us this week. It was a great conversation. I really appreciate you taking the time to join us.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me, and thank you everyone out there for joining us. And, do seek out those left field wines. Hopefully we'll have some more available for you soon.
Absolutely. Maybe this will encourage the wine choosing gods. But anyway, so off to your morning and you're done your harvest. I don't know what you're going to do, but anyway, you relax, and we will talk with you again soon, Richard.
Great. Thanks, Natalie.
Okay, cheers. And thank you everyone for joining us here tonight. I am so glad you are here. And we will be back again next week with another live show. I believe next week we are going to be talking with Ravenswood from California for barbecue weekends. So again, another different style. But I appreciate you joining us. Please click on the share, the like buttons if you enjoyed what you heard and saw tonight. And we will see you next week on the Sunday Supper Club. So good night, folks, and take care.